Hey guys, welcome back to another Lords of War video. It's Chris and Jay.
How's it going?
Hitting up. I realized we don't actually say our names very much. So.
No.
You're guy on left, I'm guy on right.
I'm left guy, or right guy, left guy. Yeah, we're just guys.
Yeah, we're here to, I mean, a lot of people have been talking about this week anyways. We got the big news that Games Workshop and Amazon have finally, I guess, what did he say? Let the ink dry on their deal they signed last year and dotted the I's.
I will say, before we continue, that was another one of those like funny content that has nothing in it. Posts.
Correct,
You're
yeah.
like, why did I need to know this? Why did I need to know that something... I don't know.
Hey, it got us talking.
It worked, I guess.
Yeah, it literally works. It's like non-news news, right? It's just like, we're just going to put this out there and we're going to get
I hate how that stuff works. Like,
it's so effective. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So we're gonna ride that wave, and we're gonna discuss, because we actually haven't talked about it yet. How like, because I know a lot of people want to ask is like, how is that going to impact the hobby? How's that going to impact hobby shops? And it kind of occurred to me a year ago when this kind of news hit the floor with Henry Cavill and all this stuff going on. When my mother-in-law texted me out of nowhere, and she's completely has no clue about the hobby, right?
Right.
But she takes an interest in that sort of thing, and she saw this the news article, and she thought immediately like, oh, I'm gonna message Chris about this. And so she messages me, and she's literally like, how this looks like it'll be good for you.
Yeah.
And I was immediately like,
Will it?
Is it going to be good for me? Like, good for me specifically, like a guy who owns a hobby shop, right?
Probably, maybe.
Yeah, and I guess that's what we're going to chat about. I got some ideas about how it could be good, and I'm sure Jay has some ideas about how it might not actually move the needle for people that are kind of on the ground floor sort of thing. So, obviously, we don't know exactly what they're doing. There's going to be a show, stuff, or shows. We don't know.
Right.
We don't know what type of show they're making, the setting.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of things they could get right or wrong. I feel like it's a really delicate IP when you're making a lot of things.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it seems like they got the right guy or whatever. I mean, didn't Cavill basically say, I want to do this, and then he got the ball rolling.
Well, they got a guy
like, okay,
who's famous and interesting
and
likes Warhammer. So,
or at least gives off the facade that he really loves Warhammer.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably some truth to it. The guy's pretty super nerdy. I think that's fair considering the
I think he is. He is.
Right? He does comic book movies,
Witcher movies, and stuff.
Movies.
Yeah.
And publicly talks about Warhammer. So I guess that's probably as best as we can get.
Absolutely. No, I think you're right.
Other than some director getting the script and then deciding, okay, we'll cast this guy because he looks like a space marine. I don't know.
Well, and we don't know that he's going to necessarily be like one of the main actors, or he'll just do the production side, which will be probably more impactful. Having someone with that prestige and also that level of care on the back end. Making sure that there's sort of a genuineness to the content being made. I guess the one good thing about Amazon being involved, not that I have a lot of love for the company, but there's probably not going to be much of any budget limitations.
No, they're probably
they've proved that before.
I mean, maybe we'll see. The last thing in the same genre or whatever was just the Rings of Power, and they had basically an unlimited budget. At least the first season that came out was showed that, because they were visually and action wise and everything, and had everything. It was just like any other crazy.
And whether you liked the way they told the story or not, you can't argue the aesthetic. I don't think.
No, they had full battle scenes, and and it wasn't just CG. It was full of practical and people. I don't know.
And I think for Warhammer 40,000, it's if they can nail the aesthetic, that'll be massive. But I think that you have to really be careful about the story you choose.
Of course, 40K has the problem with 40K or anything Warhammer is you have to there's nothing relatable to humans or everyday life.
It's so
So you have to find a little slice of something that you can sort of put down, and that people will be okay, I can follow this, and I think if you're expecting. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but I think if you're expecting just nothing but Space Marines, talking and shooting and doing it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that would be, people forget that Space Marines are supposed to be like they're almost aliens. Like you're not going to have conversations.
That's what was actually brilliant about the Horus Heresy novels. I thought personally was the fact that they right off the bat they're like, oh no, we're actually writing about just Space Marines.
Yeah,
that's problematic because without any context for how just ridiculous these beings are.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be hard to portray that when they're just fighting each other or whatever. They had the Remembrancers. I don't know if you remember. Like, they basically were like these humans that were tasked with like writing the stories of the legions as they went along. So a lot of the books had them from their perspective, which I thought was quite brilliant.
Yeah, I think the only Space Marines that are able to have these like more human conversations were Primarchs, because they were like, the next. They had both. But then they suffered human problems.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So pride and jealousy and all these things.
So I think my first point I'll make about this sort of like project and whether it'll impact, like, because the measure we'll use for us at least, what an impact would be. The easiest one is sales, right? Are more people going to buy models? And it's hard to argue that creating a ton more exposure for the IP that they're going to be doing will not add to like increase sales. Like
it probably will a little. You'll probably. I mean, I've already seen it. Again, more the last several years than ever. I just feel like at the store we have. It's funny. I don't know if necessarily Warhammer sales are up. I don't think that's the case, but necessarily, or maybe if it is, it's slightly. I think it's more like more random kind of. Different, I don't know. More new people are kind of showing up and
finding it,
and I guess the number one metric, and I don't know if the Cavill show or him being involved with having to do it is I feel like there's more women in the hobby than ever, or at least overtly, like in like actually like showing, being like, hi, I do this too, or whatever. Like I think that was, I'm sure lots of women have done hobby for a long time.
I feel like Games Workshop finally acknowledged their existence a little bit for the last couple of years, just by putting them front and center and that sort of thing.
And there's like when you have like relatives and family members or whatever buying gifts or products for their for the people that they're buying for and they're in the hobby, it's like it's not as like, I guess for Chris and I, we're used to for many years, like someone comes in to buy like a box of Space Marines for their son or whatever, and they're like, I don't freaking know what the hell this is. I don't know why they're this is so stupid and weird.
There's a bit of that.
Why is this so expensive? And then they're like, I love my kid, I'll buy it anyway. And you have to do so much more explaining, where you were like, well, forget about what they look like. They're just little chess pieces on a board, and you get to paint them, and people would be like, okay, that makes more sense or whatever. But now they're just kind of like, you say Warhammer, people are like, I know what that is.
Yes. And that can only get better, I guess, with the show. With like mainstream shows and stuff like that, right? People are like, I know what Warhammer is.
So I don't know if there will be now. If Games Workshop thought about this, I doubt they will do this, but maybe I'm wrong. Is if they don't really, I kind of like, before I get into this, I kind of enjoy that they don't usually do this, because this is like such a kind of a bit of a cheap, gimmicky, sleazy thing. But they could have products built around this stupid show, if there's characters or specific, whatever, if they make up characters for the show, those should have models or whatever, and there should be a product that launches in the same time.
I'll go a step further. I think they have to do that. I think they have to do that. Like,
so then you could say, sales. This generated sales.
Absolutely.
It's the action figures for the movie or whatever.
And that was going to be what I was going to kind of move into next. Is just a kind of a little quick discussion about. So, I still have the general sense that, and I think this has always been true, there are only very specific people that will get into like a miniature building hobby.
Yep.
Like, buy models, build them, paint them. Mm-hmm. So while Games Workshop can increase the exposure, which this I think will 100% do, and I think that'll help to find where those people are, and maybe potentially have that person be like, oh, I discovered this for the first time. I am one of those people, and that's great. I think you'll see those people come in, but you're still not gonna get like a normal person. We call them normies or whatever. The people that just be like, I just won't build a model. That person is still not going to buy a Games Workshop thing.
No.
So where I think, like, and to your point about like kind of like making products that kind of fit around the show, I think you're going to see a massive proliferation of ancillary products, which we've already seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, the Joy Toys.
The Joy Toys, the T-shirts, the all the other like products, books will probably explode even more.
Yep.
Because those are products that like regular people that don't do miniature hobby stuff can buy because they're like, I like the show. I want to buy something about the show.
And that comes back to like we don't really sell many of those things. Why would we were like specialized in the miniatures and this stuff? And like
exactly,
I could have Joy Toys on the shelf, but I tell you that I wouldn't be selling them.
They take a lot of space up. It's a different type of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's somewhere we go in the future if it becomes like a huge thing.
We'll just get an influx. You're right, of these like what we would. What the internet and us would call filthy casuals or whatever. The person who's like really like legitimately likes the background and likes reading and consuming, but they're not going to do the miniature part, which is fine.
I think it's great if it helps people discover they like models for the first time. I think that would be really good. I think that will happen.
And then they'll be disappointed.
But I don't
have to do what?
I know. Yeah, I don't think you're going to just like start converting a whole bunch of regular people over into playing Warhammer 40,000.
No.
So where I do think, I'll kind of wrap up on this point, I think, where I think it will matter for Games Workshop, so that they can make a pile of money, is historically, Games Workshop's been really good about those times they make those like just crazy bucket money.
Yes.
They're really good about putting it back into their business and reinvesting into the future, which is why they have the technology they have now.
They probably need it because they're in a weird time now, post-pandemic or middle or whatever, still suffering from it. Their brand has gotten bigger. The demand of their products has gotten more in general. And they've kind of the net they've cast is so wide with the variety of products they make that I think we've all people watching probably have found like it's really, we've left the era of just in time ordering and products. Where you walk in your store and they don't have the kit you want and they're like, no problem, I'll have it in 3 days or whatever. Or when it came to like a Saturday pre-order, no problem, I can get as many as you want. Those days are kind of not around anymore. Haven't been around for a few years now. And at least if we believe the financial statements and year-end reviews that GW publishes themselves, a lot of it has to do with like logistical problems and whatever. And I'm sure a bunch of extra cash would be great for solving some of those problems.
What business wouldn't want a pile of cash to just be like, what problems fires can I put out? What problems can I fix?
It also means that they that extra cash can be spent on other more interesting projects like. This is another. I have no idea. Just like this is purely guess, but like let's say, Old World is coming out. Maybe it doesn't have a lot of like plastic kits coming out for it. That extra cash could flush out that product if they want or whatever. We've seen them do this before, where they take that money and, like you said, they turn it right around into production or storage or whatever. Maybe they'll invest in a new paint jar. I doubt it, but
that's pipe dream right there. Yeah, another version of the same jar or whatever.
Another dumb sidebar. I'm like, how did they not come up with the dumb nozzle thing? That there's like a little indie company that made a nozzle that goes on top of their jar.
A little peen or whatever that goes on top. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. The nipple.
The nipple. Yeah. How did they not just make that?
Yeah, because it's an it's an add-on sale.
You could sell a pack of 50 for $50.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. You think you got it off all your chest? I get. So Jay's like a perfect case study for something like this because it's hard for some people to understand that there are a lot of people out there that just don't watch shows like this too, right? Like
it's true.
For years, my friends and I would be like, Jay, you gotta check out Game of Thrones. You gotta check out Game of Thrones, and he's like, eh.
And
it became this whole thing or whatever. Yeah.
And I still haven't watched it, which is weird. Probably, I don't know.
The time's kind of passed.
Yeah. I mean, I got I got to eat my popcorn when everyone was upset about the last few seasons or whatever. No, I solely blame my wife because she had read some of the books and she's like a voracious reader. I think she might have read them all or whatever, and she was like, I didn't enjoy it. So then I was like, well, if you're not watching it,
it's tough.
Then it's like, then I've got to like set time aside. And they're not like short things. Anyway, so I kind of just like let it pass by. And I appreciate visually, it's incredible and all that. And good content.
But it's just my point. Like,
but I watch very little.
Specifically, is like
I think I'm not the guy that's going to jump on this.
Certain age demographics, like I think, watch a lot less of those types of shows.
It might be other factors. Obviously, my own. I mean, you're similar, but I feel like you are more likely to watch these things than I am. But like. With the kids and the family, you just kind of like that little bit of time you have, you squirrel away for like, I don't know, other things, I guess. Or I mean, I could watch things, but I choose to play a video game,
or
paint a model or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, like, I actually remember now when the Cavill was first talked about it with association with working with Games Workshop in some capacity. Yeah, there was always people asking me. I think someone called the store that day and they were like, "Did you hear the news?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, Cavill. And I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "Isn't that Superman or whatever?" I had like no idea. And then I was like, once a few seconds later, I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess." Like I just didn't, And then even now that it's become more real because the ink is dry on some paper or whatever. I'm still like, yeah, like. I don't know. I don't think the day-to-day is going to change that much. Can I say that it's not? It's only going to be good for I guess Games Workshop and by association us in some way maybe. But like you said, I think it comes down to what ancillary products and other junk we can, I don't know, throw at people that have to do with it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm.
What if the show's bad? Do you think it even could be that bad?
Could it be bad?
I don't know if it could be bad.
You know what? I don't think it'll be great. Like I think it'll be an average show.
It's hard to make a great show. It really is.
I don't know how you can make
hard.
A 40K anything that appeases everyone, right? Like I guess what the funny thing is, probably the most loved and generally accepted best 40K content ever made was the Stardust thing. And no one talks in that, basically. It's just Marines killing things for 5 minutes or whatever.
Right.
And I think that's like, this is not going to be that. So
no, it's not. It's not. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like there's a bit of the less is more here. Like, almost. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I really hope I can think of one thing they could do. They should just rip this or maybe have the guys that made this make the movie or the show. Is if you play the 40K Darktide game. So the guys at the company's called Fat Shark that makes that game, and they make Vermintide and whatever. The one thing they've absolutely nailed in those two titles is the characters and the banter between them and the conversations. It's like that they've nailed. They've made it relatable and funny. And
did you ever watch Firefly? The show?
I didn't. No, I know it's also like
So. Because nobody watches this part of the video.
No, we're way past. No one's seeing this at all. Yeah.
Let's both do a. If you were making the show, what would your setting be? What would your theory be? And I think immediately what comes to mind for me is like, because we talked about context, I wouldn't have like none of my main characters would be Space Marines.
No.
So and where I go, because I think it's the most interesting and it lets you explore things the most, especially if it's their first show. I would do an Inquisitor War Band.
Yeah.
And that way you could have a cast of kooky characters. You can have all that banter.
This is what Darktide is. You have an Ogren, a Psyker, just a regular veteran who's a guardsman basically.
Yeah.
And you can have, what's the last one? It's a Zealot. So you have like, and the banter's perfect because you have like the Ogren's like dumb and silly. The veteran tries to be a serious guy because he's like, I'm in the army or whatever. You guys are all crazy, and then the Zealot just spews like just all the religious for the emperor nonsense or whatever, and then the Psyker's just crazy because his brain is mad or whatever.
Yeah, and then all you're missing is like sort of like the Nathan Fillion character who like runs the crew. Or
well, you have your sponsor who's telling you where to go and what to do, and whatever. And a lot of them have like my favorite thing. Like I said, they should just take that video game because the game is beautiful, and they have like the detail. Again, like for example, like in the video game, they have assets that are from the tabletop product. So like the map will be littered with the stupid 40K containers they made some years ago. It's that like box-shaped container that has some gothic details on it. Those are just like scattered around the Astra Militarum little barricades that came out like 15, 20 years ago. Those are like everywhere. All of those, everything from the 40, like the terrain that you're used to playing around and using in 40K games is like just that's what they used, or the for Titanicus the Civitas terrain kits.
Yeah,
that's what the buildings look like. They took all of that and they just put it in the video game, and you feel like you're there. And I think, I'm sure the show will look beautiful, but like I think the more they lean into that and making it look like stuff that's been in Games Workshop illustrations and in their own products that they sell would be great. Like I'm not saying you want miniatures or something, but like just take all of that. The game, I'm sure that's what they'll do. I imagine. like, you know what I mean? It's almost like the Lego movies. You know how like it's just littered with stuff that you can recognize immediately. Like, you know, everything from like their the detail they put. What is it, like the stupid space figure in Lego? He's got like the broken visor because everyone had that like thing happen. You know, like I'm not saying do that, but like this type of like leading into the hobby part a little bit. Like
you can put the fan service stuff in there. You can make little nod Easter eggs, I guess.
I think you should just fill it with that. Yeah.
The other thing that comes to mind, I know I'm doing a second one here, but I'm thinking of like shows like the Marvel like What If series. There's like and I've recently been watching some like animated stuff like Blue Eyed Samurai and I'm trying to think of what the other one was called, but I was like it would be really fitting for them to do an animated. Like,
well, yeah.
I mean, it would almost be better.
It's actually the better medium.
It would probably be the better medium. Yeah. And I'm also torn. I'm like, you have a lot of almost like doing like a short story show. Like Love, Sex, Robots or whatever? Yeah. Like every episode is just a one-off story. You could tell a lot of really cool different stories and sort of like showcase a lot of different like aspects of the universe. But yeah, I mean, we could probably turn this video into the 3-hour content. But we should.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, no one's watching anymore, and they're not going to watch 3 hours of us talking about what we think should be in the show. But at the end of the day, is it good? Yeah, question mark. You know, it won't be bad.
I think, yes, wait and see. You know?
Wait and see. Yeah. So anyway,
well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And until next time,
have a good one.
He's opening our door. Is that Nick?
Better not be Nick.
You guys want this? I found these mats outside or whatever.